Welcome to the 15th episode of the second series of the Women in CX podcast, a series dedicated to real talk conversations between women in customer experience. Listen in as we share our career stories, relive the moments that shaped us, and voice our opinions as loudly as we like about all manner of CX subjects. I'll be your host, Clare Muscutt, and in today's episode, I'll be talking to a female CXO working in the very male-dominated world of tech startups, in the even more male-dominated space of IoT and facilities management. Let me introduce you to today's inspiring guest. She began a career in IT project management at Whitbread and moved into program management at Argos before leading customer-facing IT transformations at EasyJet. She actually discovered CX during her MBA program and never looked back, investing in her own development until she became the startup CXO at MKL Innovation. Please welcome to the show, CX sister, Sharon Boyd. Hey Sharon!
Hi Claire, how are you?
I'm awesome, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yes, very good.
Brilliant. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, absolute pleasure to be here.
And welcome to everybody listening at home as well. So just thinking, Sharon, last time we spoke, you were sitting in your outside office eating an ice cream.
I was, yeah, very different to today, which is like, I don't know, -1, I think. Yeah.
Very cold January. Whereabouts are you based?
I'm Milton Keynes.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, it's a bit colder further up, isn't it? Even though it's not even quite the Midlands over the UK. Well, anyway, I'm really excited that you're here today and that we're going to have a really cool chat actually about the power of investing in yourself, customer experience in a really interesting area of FM and IoT, which is a very male-dominated industry, and the journey that you've been on to becoming now Chief Experience Officer at MKL Innovation. I always want to say MLK. So Martin Luther King or Milton Keynes, I'm not sure. I get confused. With that kind of ascent up the career ladder in lots of big corporate organizations, what were the main challenges you experienced as a woman on your journey to where you are today?
I think one of the things that stuck out for me was there didn't seem to be very many female role models. That was a challenge for me because I really wanted to grow. I wanted to get on, and I've always been quite self-aware, but I was always just, wanted to get feedback from other people, especially those women above me who'd done really well, and just kind of grow. And then I remember approaching quite a few women in the different corporates and saying, do you know what, you've done fantastic. I'd love to have a quick coffee with you and just learn a bit more about your journey and a bit more about you. And yeah, it just wasn't forthcoming, which I always felt was a bit of a shame. And I think that always pushed me to then send the lift back down for other women and other men too. But, just really think about those who are in a similar position to me, wanting to grow, being ambitious, and not really knowing how to start, not having anyone there to have their back a bit. I think that's when you are out on a limb a little bit and you want to grow, having someone in your corner just to champion you, or just let you run stuff by them, it can just be so valuable, can't it? And I think that was a challenge for me. There just didn't really seem to be anyone forthcoming. When I feel that, I found people outside of the organizations that I was in who really did step into that role for me and really encouraged me to grow. And there's a lot of people that I need to say thank you for where I am today. But yeah, I did find that that was missing. That's a gap for me.
It's interesting you say that, because in the corporate world, I found two kind of very distinct types of women. There were the few really successful, super senior women leaders who were so confident in themselves. They were constantly sending the lift back down and helping anyone up who was ambitious. But that was counterbalanced with a fair few women who it felt like you were at school sometimes. And even, in fact, I experienced quite a lot of bullying from senior women who not just weren't forthcoming with assistance, but kind of tried to knock me down as many pegs as they could. And it's been really amazing being out of corporate and in the community that we're in, because it's kind of the other way around, like surrounded by women who constantly want to nurture and support each other and help each other climb as high as we want to. And
Definitely.
yeah, and I think there's that we really need to change that stereotype of, you know, women being in competition, because clearly there's so much more power when we're not competing with one another. But the difference between being on the inside of a big corporate and being outside where you lovely ladies is night and day. So
I totally agree with that. I've been, I guess I would say I've been in lots of communities is the wrong word, but like project management or IT or whatever. But in the CX world, it is, everyone just genuinely wants to support each other. And you're right, there's lots of really strong women who are just, just want to help each other, men too. And it's massively refreshing. It's not something I've seen before, and I really appreciate it.
yeah, me too. And it is interesting, just reflecting on what you were saying about kind of looking up and thinking, oh, where is the woman leader that will be my mentor? And I never found one in the CX world either. But I did end up with a guy in CX. So I think sometimes like we're on the lookout for someone who we can look up to, that like kind of, oh, that's who I want to be when I'm, I don't know, at this point in my career or that age. But yeah, mine ended up being a guy, but he's just
Mine too.
awesome. Oh, yours is a guy as well. Yeah. So I think the allies of women in CX, particularly in our industry, there's some incredible ones. So Matt Watkinson, Ian Golding, Naeem Arif, Adrian Swinscoe, they're all so behind the girls. It's fabulous. Give a bit of a shout out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would second all of them. They've all been massively helpful. Christopher as well with the CX World Games.
Chris Brooks, of course.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
had a few
so many
shouts
of
out
them.
on the podcast actually.
Yeah.
Joe Van Rinsdijk was singing his praises as well. So now you're working in possibly the most male-dominated space in terms of being in tech, in FM, and actually a male-owned startup. So I'm really intrigued, as a very feminine woman, what's it like working with the boys? So in fact, actually, let's start from, sorry, my cat's just arrived. Hi, Small.
Hello.
She always wanted to be on the podcast. So anyone that's listening and not watching, but my little furry face just pops up on the camera. Yeah, sorry. So let's just kind of rewind back a bit for anyone that doesn't know MKL Innovation. Tell us a little bit about where you're working now.
Yeah, so MKL is, well, it's got three parts to it really. So we do electrical compliance, we do IoT, Internet of Things, and energy management and kind of visualization of digital data. And then we now have the customer experience side as well. So three very distinct business units, which all work really nicely together. But yeah, it's really exciting because it is all about tech. There's some real cutting edge stuff in there. Yeah, and it's interesting how many people just still don't understand the power of IoT, and being able to bring that to life for somebody in a really, real world scenario so they can really understand it. That's quite special when you can do that and someone gets it and goes, oh, okay, right. So that means I don't have to send as many engineers, or, I can see all of my data for all of my, 12 buildings on one dashboard, and be able to see that actually I've got 3 ovens that are on overnight every single night, and I'm just wasting a load of energy. So actually I can be more carbon neutral if I, So yeah, it's a really fun place to be. Yeah, so I've worked with the guys, coming up for a year now.
Wow.
Started off purely CX, done a lot of stuff along the way that's maybe not so CX, but actually links in really well, because quite often, one of the key things when you're in a tech world like this, one of the key things that customers really worry about is cybersecurity.
Yes.
So that's been a really big project for us this year, which sat under my remit, which is making sure that we had all of our cybersecurity certificates. Everything was as secure as we could possibly be, because you can't go after the big boys if your systems aren't secure, and that's the very first question they ask. So it's been much less around the touchy-feely side of customer experience and very much around, okay, what are the customer's main concerns? What do we need to do to address that and give them comfort and confidence? So that's not really what I thought it would be when I first joined as the CXO, but actually, that's the right thing to do, to get the real basics and the fundamentals in first, especially in a tech company like this. But yeah, in terms of what it's like to work in a male dominated, I don't really feel like it is male dominated. I think it's more that it's a culture and a kind of ethos where everyone just rolls up their sleeves, gets stuck in, has fun, but works really hard. And it's that kind of environment that I really thrive in. Of course, there's the banter that you get with blokes, and I've learned all sorts of words and phrases that I didn't really necessarily want to know. But no, it's a really nice place to work.
And on the subject of explaining Internet of Things in a way that is really easy to understand, some of our listeners might not be that aware of the Internet of Things. So could you give us a quick rundown on what IoT means?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think if you imagine you are a landlord and you've got a chain of pubs and restaurants. It would allow you to be able to see on a very clear dashboard absolutely everything that's connected into your electricity. So you'd be able to see your air conditioning, all of your sockets, your mainframe, everything, like how much all of your PCs are taking, everything. So you can see exactly what's going on, and you can cut down on your energy and your electricity, but you can also control it too. So say you've got, 3 boardrooms that are completely empty, but you've got the windows wide open and the heater's on full blast, you can go, hang on a minute, there's nobody in that building, and it's COVID, I'm not gonna have anyone in there for 2 months, switch it off remotely. And then you're saving yourself all that. So you've got the controls both ways as well, which is what's really great about the IoT side. Not only can you see the data coming back and forth, analyze it and improve it, but you can also then control it as well. And that's where the cybersecurity side of things comes in, because you want to be able to know that it is all safe.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So just to expand that a little further then. So the technology is a layer that sits between the hardware of the appliances, and so appliances or things plugged into the electricity, and that enables you to control it and report on it and
Yes,
do things differently. Oh,
absolutely.
Right. I'd never heard it described like that. So that's actually a really useful definition for me too. Thank you.
It can be anywhere where there's data, people, or an operation. Quite a lot of what we're dealing with at the moment, I say dealing with, we're very lucky to have them on our books, is car manufacturers, huge ones, luxury brands. And you kind of think about the conveyor belt of process of loading a car on and watching all the mechanics of everything, and you can build the digital twins through the data and be able to see which elements and which components are overly stressed or are struggling because of the amount of data coming through off them every time. You can go, right, okay, this particular cog should spin 2,000 times, that's spun 2,500 times, okay, that's going to go soon, so let's do some maintenance when the system is down, so that we can fix it at a good time rather than waiting for it to go when we're in the middle of an operation. So you can use the data in a really clever way, and then do something about it so that you can keep your operation up and running. So you can use it for so many different things, whether it's people or data, it's got lots of user cases.
So as Chief Experience Officer, are you now more looking at things like customer success and sales and onboarding and support?
Yeah, so the 2 main ones I've been doing this last month is very much around, so we've got a 24/7 help desk, which we're running at the moment, and that's for one of our new clients, which has just come on with a lot of pubs and restaurants. So that's one of them, but we also, for one of our we've got another really big client as well, where we were working through all the onboarding process and just making sure that that was as slick as possible, and that everything where we could see a pain point, and we mapped it out. I've taken it down. It was behind me. You can probably see all the blue tap marks still. I had that up, and we went through and stepped every single bit through of going, okay, if we get on site and this happens, what do we do? Because quite often we're on a site in the middle of the night. There's nobody else about. The engineer might be there on their own. What things might go wrong, so make it as slick as possible, especially in a COVID world where it's potentially difficult to get access in the first place. So yeah, onboarding and making that as slick as possible has been really important. And then what else have we been doing? Oh, so really making sure from a UX point of view that everything we do on our dashboards is really easy to use. I think I mentioned earlier about kind of people don't always get IoT. People are often scared of it as well. So not only from a cyber point of view, but also it feels overcomplicated. And I think some companies almost make it overcomplicated because then they can go, well, we're IoT. But we want to turn it on its head. And we've spent quite a lot of time. We've got a podcast which nowhere near as successful as your podcast, Claire, but is called IoTeasy, and that's literally about trying to make IoT easy as possible and just take that kind of confusion away from it, so people kind of go, all right, okay, it's just how like devices are connected to the internet. It's nothing more complicated than that. So that's one of the things we've been doing, but we've literally just taken on a new developer, which by the time this goes out, they'll be onboarded with us. And the whole reason that they joined my team is to make sure that the front end of the IoT dashboards and everything is really slick and really easy to use and not complicated at all, just really intuitive. And that's really important to me in everything we do. And I was questioning them and saying, okay, so although you're a back-end developer, how do you make sure that you understand and put yourself in that customer's shoes? How do you think about where they might click or what they might think or need next? How do you preempt? So we've got that through all of our recruitment as well.
I think it's fascinating, actually. Like, there are so many more growth companies in the kind of software as a service space, in this kind of B2B software as a service. So it is actually really interesting to see you kind of go from retail and digital transformation in the direct to consumer space into a startup that undoubtedly is going to scale considerably, especially with the environmental challenge that we've got on our hands. It's going to add a lot of value back to the world, right?
Yeah, massively. I mean, nobody wants to say that they're successful during COVID because it feels a bit like you're showing off and everyone should be failing. But, we have really thrived. So it does really show that actually people are really making that switch and seeing that they don't need loads of people in an office, or they don't need lots of engineers in vans. They can put sensors in that send the data back, and then they only go when there's actually an issue rather than going and checking constantly. Like, you can do a fire alarm check that takes 3 hours, or you can get sensors fitted that always ping back, okay, it's fine, and oh, it's fallen down, go and send an engineer. So yeah, it's a whole different approach. I think really starting to learn, actually, okay, we can let the digital side of things in, exactly like, oh, we don't need to fly to the other side of the world, we can just go on a Zoom. People are starting to think, actually, okay, how do I do this a different way? And it's really, COVID has actually really moved facilities management on probably a couple of years forwards during this time, where people are starting to go, actually, okay, well, we could do this in a different way. We could cut our electricity bills, we could really reduce our carbon just by putting in some sensors in.
Makes sense. Part of the pun.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So it is nice to see that that progression is starting. Yeah,
well, and that's what technology is the best for, right? So creating better efficiency, reducing unnecessary contact. I think a lot of conversations I have at the moment about technology and CX are about technology trying to automate stuff that humans do better, which is like making judgment calls and decisions. But like saying, actually, the right approach to technology is, it's black and white. If it's something that can be done that doesn't need the human touch and there's an efficiency there, but yeah, it's not quite the same when it comes to customer interactions.
No, it's really not. But if it's just yes, the air conditioning is on, no, it's not,
You don't need a person to go do that. Yeah, no, definitely.
No, you then use your engineers in a totally different way, because you then
Yeah,
set thresholds, or
yeah,
teach it what, smart learning sort of stuff, rather than the
yeah,
basics, which you can use your engineers in a whole different way. You've got me
yeah.
started now, Claire.
Maybe even for service, right? Like,
Yeah,
being more kind of service oriented than just, can you say those like proactive repairs, or the sensor said that
yeah.
this has been in place for the time period it's likely to break. I'm here proactively fixing this before it breaks. That's a great
Exactly.
service.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
the whole bit, what really blew, or what was kind of, I hadn't really thought about before, was how it fits into the cold chain of COVID and vaccinations and stuff like that. If you are in a hospital and you've got a load of insulin, for example, in a fridge, you can check the whole way through the journey to make sure it's been safely kept.
Yeah.
That was the pre-COVID version we used, but now you can kind of go, okay, all your vaccinations have been kept safely for this, at this temperature or whatever it is as well. So it's, yeah, just a lot of different use cases. It's very interesting.
Fascinating. Really fascinating. So I really geeked out then. Apologies to the listeners if you're not as geeky as me, but I really enjoyed learning a bit more about IoT in FM. One of the first things we talked about was the fact that you discovered CX through doing your MBA. So personal development has clearly been a huge part of your success. What would you say the best investments you've made in your development are, either in terms of time or financial contribution?
I think doing that MBA and pushing myself to learn stuff that's potentially out of my comfort zone or doesn't interest me in the slightest has been really good at pushing me.
The listeners are going to be thinking, what was it that she didn't want to learn? Go on, you have to tell me now. What were you not interested in at all?
There's a lot of algebra, Claire. A
Ah,
lot.
it's like
A lot.
statistics and finance and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Research
Yeah.
statistics, that kind of thing. I hated
Oh,
that when I did my masters.
oh, yeah. And I would just sit there and think, okay, as long as I can apply this to the real world, I can get it. And I'd be sitting there, and it wasn't until someone said, oh, okay, so you can use this to do that, and I'd click and go, oh, okay, all right, I get it now.
I'm
Get
interested
behind it,
again.
rather than just, oh, I couldn't come up with something that's helpful. But I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
oh, I know. Like comparing businesses to see which one you'd invest in, you'd use all these algebra things for that, formulas. So what's been quite good is it's given me a really strong business foundation for all of the different businesses that I might touch in a CX world, because yourself, as a CX consultant, you can walk into any different type of business and hopefully apply the same principles, because it's all about that end customer. And as long as you are really kind of end customer focused, the back bit, obviously you've got to tweak and tailor really well, but having that strong
Commercial understanding.
yeah, I think so. It has helped me. But what I've probably learned about myself is that once I move into a new area, if I do a course, whether it's program management or CX or whatever it is, that helps me with my own confidence and my own credibility then. So that's why I personally do it. And I know others don't need to, because they kind of know they've got the experience and don't worry about the certificate. But for me, I kind of like to do it the other way around, do the certificate, and really make sure I'm up there and I know my stuff.
That's
So yeah,
interesting. That's interesting that you say that. So I think I spotted another certificate behind you as well. Have you got a couple on the wall?
oh, that's my CCXP, and that's my
CCX.
one from Cranfield. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that. So like I know that there's specifically certain cultures that value and appreciate certification more. I know obviously I talk to people around the world now with the podcast, and
Yeah.
I've made all of these connections, but like to me, I've never been interested in having certificates to prove it. So I did my degree and my masters, but those certificates have stayed in the folder that they came in. I don't even know where they are actually. Yeah, I moved house and recently, and I dug them out, and I was like, oh, they're like pristine. They've never been out of the envelope, and I haven't chosen to do any of the exams. The personal development stuff I tend to do is more or development stuff I tend to do. It tends to be more on the like personal level, so like understanding like emotional intelligence and myself and how that applies, and time management and productivity, those kinds of things, but you don't really get certificates for that. So for you it's been really good for your confidence to be able to say I can do
I
this,
think
and
so.
I've got
Yeah.
my proof to it. So your MBA, would you recommend doing MBA?
Yeah.
but it's hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's been harder because I've been doing it remotely,
Yeah.
and then because I'm an extrovert, I like having people around me, and I bounce off people. So doing that kind of over Zoom, I've found harder. But yeah, doing the MBA has been brilliant. Obviously, did the the CCXP, and I've done lots of other courses as well over the last sort of 3 to 5 years. I think probably the most or the best investment has probably been reaching out and coaching others, because I think you learn so much when you coach and mentor people, don't you? And then getting coaching yourself. So I've normally, and then maybe this sounds slightly selfish, but I've normally got always about 2 or 3 different coaches on the go, or mentors on the go from different areas. At the moment I've got a CX coach, Nick, who is absolutely fantastic, and also does kind of the life coaching side of things too.
You're employing him to CX life coach you?
Yeah, and he's really good. Definitely would recommend. Yeah, and then there's 2 others as well, one in the kind of uni world and one in my work world. So yeah, I get lots of different perspectives, which I really appreciate, being able to bounce things off. So I think having a good strong support network around you that you can bring your different challenges to, and just say, look, this is where my head's at, but I've always done it this way, and this is, maybe something different. What one of my mentors is particularly good with politics, and that is so not my strong point, and that's what I struggled with in the corporate world, whereas they find it quite easy.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of that in my corporate days as well, because it didn't naturally come to me either. I'd just be like,
no,
I just want to be here, do a good job and have a good time. Why is it so hard?
So yeah, I would say definitely, if you don't have a mentor or a coach, go and get one. Just go and like look and see who it is out there that is, that you admire, and is either doing a job that you want to do, or is really strong in something that maybe you're not, and just approach them and ask them. And that really has been such an investment for me. Some of them I've had to pay, and some of them I haven't, and they've just given their time, and I've given back in other ways, but massively helpful. It's really probably take me where I am now, someone like support system around you.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think I was thinking about doing a post on LinkedIn the other day. I'll probably still do it at some point. But the things that are the best investment for me in the last 12 months has been a mindset coach. Because when I got stuck with COVID, it was nothing to do with my ability or my talent or my skill level. It was to do with like what was going on in my mindset. My noggin, actually, my special little noggin. Business coaching. So before the mindset, kind of being able to decide, especially as a solopreneur, as I was in the beginning, like deciding which way to go, having somebody that can act as a sounding board when you don't have a boss anymore, especially when you're making that transition. Amazing investment. Also, executive virtual assistant has been my latest.
Wow, I love that.
Having a virtual PA has changed my life. And Naomi, if you're listening, I love you. But just to finish off then, so what advice would you give to women who are considering pursuing or improving their own personal development?
There's a couple of things. I would definitely say opportunities that come your way, a bit like Richard Branson always says, just say yes. If it sounds interesting or sounds exciting to you, say yes to the opportunity, because I've done that all through 2020 and it's massively paid off for me. I've done some really exciting things. Build lots of different things into your life. That's certainly for me, that's just been brilliant, because you just get so many different dimensions and aspects which you can then, especially as a consultant, you can then apply to lots of different things, lots of different sectors, lots of different roles. But yeah, reach out and connect with people, get a mentor or coach others, and build some real deep connections, because it's only by having proper, deep, authentic conversations with people that you really learn what you're made of and what you stand for and what you need. And accountability partners. I know that a couple of us in CX, Katie, you're amazing. That's my shout out to you. They are fantastic, aren't they? Just someone who, especially if you're doing everything by Zoom, or you're sat alone in your summer house or in your amazing She Loves Adventures room that you're in. You just need someone there occasionally. He just gives you a little boot up the backside and says, come on, Sharon, you had this big, hairy, audacious goal. What have you done towards it this week? Because you're not going to get there if you just keep plodding along doing emails. So I think, just keep pushing, say yes, and find the right people around you to support you and inspire you and keep you going.
I absolutely love that. And yes, accountability buddies, 100%. I spend every Monday morning with mine. So I set my goals the night before and I tell her on the Monday what I'm going to do. And we review the goals from the week before. And since we've had that relationship, both of us, have been spending every Monday morning celebrating for the last few months. So it's been absolutely fabulous. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Sharon. So nice to see your happy face again, and wish you best of luck with the last 2 months of your MBA.
Thank you. Can't wait to throw my hat in the air. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, and get another certificate on the wall.
Space.
Yeah. You have to make an arrangement of them. All right, well, you take care now, and thanks ever so much, and thanks everyone for listening as well. Take care. Bye, Sharon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Women in CX podcast with me, Clare Muscutt. If you enjoyed the show, please drop us a like, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. And if you'd like to know more, please join us at womenincx.community and follow the Women in CX page on LinkedIn. Join us again next week, where I'll be talking to a woman who is applying design thinking and human-centered design to include the excluded, and using her CX skills to build safe LGBTQ communities in Australia. See you all next week.